So Marissa says, "Hi, I'm confused why guys show interest and then just disappear, stop texting or calling. Everything is great and then it just stops. I don't get it." Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the situation. It depends on the guy. Could be a lot of different things. It could be one. So one of the things is that he might not think that you're really that interested in him. So one of the things I talked about earlier in the video was this miscommunication thing, right? And miscommunication thing is a big thing in dating because a lot of times what will happen is women will hear this thing. They're like, oh, lean back, right? And so they lean all the way back and they're like falling out of their chair. And the guy's like, is she even interested? She doesn't seem like she's paying any attention. She doesn't seem like she cares that much. And unless he's a super confident guy who's like, every woman's into me, right? He might not continue to try to move forward, right? So there's different ways that guys test, right? Because guys aren't confidence machines. Guys have insecurities, they have issues, they're afraid of rejection. And so if a guy is interested in you and you're not showing him that you're interested in him in a way that makes sense to him, he might not continue to pursue you because he doesn't want to end up in the friend zone. And so if a guy feels that way, he might decide to pull away and just disappear because he didn't think you were that interested. And I hear that from women all the time. And attainability is all about making sure that a guy understands that you still like him, right? Because what ends up happening is a lot of times when women take my materials, they take it to the extreme, right? And I was just talking about like the 80-20, like 70-30 communication. Well, a lot of women will take it to a 100-0 and they're like, I'm not contacting this guy ever, right? And so he's like, she never puts any effort into contacting me. I don't think she's that into me, right? And so he's like, well, I don't want to end up in the friend zone. And so he'll end up just leaving the situation and going finding somebody else because he doesn't want to end up stuck in the friend zone because that sucks for guys. It's like one of their biggest fears. And so that's one of the reasons. Another reason is his own insecurity. A guy might have his own insecurities where he is just like not, he thinks that he's not worthy of you or he screwed up. He feels like maybe he can't really handle you or deal with you, or he doesn't think that he's financially in a situation where he can provide for you and take you out on dates and spend money on you. And if he feels like it's going to cost a lot of money to be with you and he's like trying to build his life and build his business, build his work or whatever, he might pull away because he's like, I can't afford this woman. I'd love to date her and be with her, but I simply am not able to afford her. And so I'm just going to go and be single until, because women are expensive. Right. And so that's what a lot of guys will think. That there's a lot of other things that could be going on there. Another one has to do with cultural things. So it could be, I get women all the time that are like, oh, guy ghosted me for 3 or 4 days, right? Or a guy ghosted me for 5 days, where they don't realize that for a lot of people, that's normal dating behavior where they don't contact somebody and go out on a date with them once a week. Right. And so that might be normal behavior. You think he's pulling away. You think he's disappearing. He's just like, oh, I've got things that are going on in my life. I'm a busy person. And so I'll see her again in a week or whatever. And so he might just have a completely different mindset about dating and relationships than you have. And so he's just in his head, he's like, hey, this is what's going on. He's thinking, I don't want to screw it up with her, right? Because he doesn't want to come off as needy or too into you and then freak you out and you end up not being that interested in him, right? And so he might be trying to play it cool, but you're interpreting it as him not being interested in you. So that's another huge thing that can happen. Another one has to do with hormones. So if you have gotten intimate with a guy, sometimes guys kind of disappear and pull away after getting physically intimate together because they have their testosterone actually goes down and they don't feel that drive to pursue and go after and get physically intimate with you again. And so they get distracted with other things and you don't become their priority anymore. And they're just focused on other things until they start pulling that drive back up and they're like, oh my God, where's that beautiful woman that I was talking to, Marissa? Oh, I liked her so much. And then he contacts you and you yell at him because it's been 5 days and and you feel like you've been treated badly, and he thought that it was just a normal situation. And so, that's another thing is that a lot of guys know that if they don't contact you within a certain period of time, and all women have different kind of time frames that they feel like a man should be contacting them after a date. And if you don't contact him if he doesn't contact you during that certain period of time, most guys realize that most women are going to freak out on them and yell at them and be like, right? And so if he feels like it's been too long, he might just be like, you know what? I don't even care. I liked her, but I don't like her enough to get yelled at. And so if he thinks that you're the kind of woman that will yell at him and freak out when he comes back, then he might not come back. And that's one of the reasons why I tell women that if you want to connect with a guy and he pulls away, when the time to have the conversation about him pulling away is not when he comes back. That is not when you want to have that conversation. You want to welcome him back and make him feel like being away from you is worse than being with you. And you may want to make him feel like coming back to you is better than staying away from you. Those are the feelings that you want him to have. And you can't make him feel that way if he comes to you and you start yelling at him and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe that's more information than you wanted to hear. However, those are some of the reasons why guys will just disappear, stop texting and calling, all that kind of thing. Even if they show that they like you and they're really interested in you, there's a whole plethora of reasons why he might not kind of continue seeing you or trying to date you or any of that kind of stuff. And so you want to be aware of those, and some of the ones that you can do things about, there's things you can do about, and some of the ones that you can't. And so, and there's also one where he's just not there. He felt that way in the moment, but long-term, maybe he didn't see you as long-term relationship material or something like that, or somebody that he'd want to be with long-term, or your values weren't aligned, or maybe there was a deal breaker there that he saw and he was like, oh yeah, I really like her, but because he's got his own issues too, right? Men sabotage themselves just like women sabotage themselves, right? And good guys will be like, they'll look at a woman who's just amazing and they'll be like, well, she's great, except, there's this like thing that she does, where she like kind of snaps her fingers every once in a while, and that like drives me crazy. I can't tell you how many dumb things I've heard from guys where they've like been like, well, this woman, she was really great, but I saw her toes, and then after I saw her toes, I couldn't date her anymore. I mean, how can you date a woman with those kinds of toes, and you're just like, oh my God, dude, what? Okay, man, whatever, right? And women do that as well, right? Everybody does that. And so it's just one of those things. I mean, there could be there's a laundry list of reasons why he might tell you that he really likes you and then just disappear and not talk to you anymore, right? There could be other things too, right? Like work issues. I mean, there could be other priorities that end up taking over, and he's just like, this is more important than hanging out and talking to her.